So here's one way we could define hash table add. We're going to define the procedure hash table add. So the first thing we want to do is find the right bucket. We'll use hash table get bucket that we just defined to do that, passing in the table and the key. We'll store that in the variable bucket. The next thing we need to do is add the new key value pair, and we can do that using append. Append will add a new element to the list, and what we want the list to be is a new list with two elements, the key and the value. So let's try this in the Python interpreter. And I've done essentially the same thing that we did before, except for we don't really need the variable bucket. We can do the append right away. So I'm getting the bucket, and then I'm appending the new entry to it. So we'll make a hash table, and we'll keep the size of the hash table very low. We would never really want a hash table with only 3 buckets, but to make it easy to look at the results, we'll keep the hash table very small. And let's add to our table a key and value. And for our actual web index, the values will be lists of URLs. For our tests, they could be anything. So let's just use a number. And now we can look at table, and let's run that. And we see we have the table. We have 3 buckets, and one of the buckets contains an element. If we look at the bucket that we get from hash table get bucket for the key Udacity, we should get the bucket that contains the keyword Udacity. Let's try that. That works. And we can add some more words to our hash table, more key value pairs to our hash table. So now we've got 3 entries in our hash table. They all happen to end up in different buckets. That's just lucky in this case. Let's add one more so we have a bucket that contains more than one entry. And we should print our table after adding one more. And now we have one bucket with one word, one bucket with 2 entries, and one bucket with just one. Now, there's one big problem with the way we did hash table add. Suppose we add the same word again, and let's say now the value of Udacity is 27. So now we're making a hash table that has 3 buckets. We're adding a bunch of entries to it. We've added the entry Udacity twice. Now when we get the bucket for Udacity, what we see is we have a bucket that has the same keyword twice. If we want our hash table to be a mapping between keys and values, this is going to be a problem. If we have the same keyword twice, when we look up Udacity, well, we don't know which answer we should get. Is the value 23 or is the value 27? So what we want is something a little different from add. What we want is to make sure that every time we add a new keyword to the hash table, if it already exists, instead of having 2 entries with the same keyword, what we'll do is change the value that's associated with that keyword. So we have a problem if we have 2 entries with the same keyword. We're going to fix that later. Before we fix that, let's define lookup. And it will turn out that lookup will actually be helpful in defining a better version of add.